for at least close to 8 or 9 years now. And this is very monumental. And so whatever happens today, always bear in mind that today is historic. And as a result of the historicity, I need you to do one thing for me. Anytime you see the camera looking your way, please smile. Okay? When you see that the camera is passing, or you see someone with a camera passing, or you even hear some camera passing by you, please smile. Because it's important. We need to make sure that we get the camera people happy. There's nothing worse as a camera operator taking a picture of someone who's frowning. So please, put a smile on your face, and let's enjoy tonight. The second thing is a hashtag for tonight. For those of you who enjoy your Twitters and your social media, the hashtag is very simple. It is TimXAccra. Okay? It is TimXAccra. So any point in time in today's program, if I come up here and I say, what's the hashtag? I want you guys to repeat to me, TimXAccra. Okay? Okay? Okay, let's try it. What's the hashtag for today? What's the hashtag for today? What's the hashtag for today? Shout outs to those of you who are now taking your seats. We'll do that exercise once again in a bit. Now, the last thing, housekeeping rule for today is, anyone who's going to mount the stage today has something very simple to do. They need to tell us what digital superhero they are and what superpower they have. I'm going to start it off so you understand what I mean. Me, I am a communications or a digital communications superhero. My superpower is making sure that the rest of the world knows about what's happening in Ghana's tech ecosystem. Is that cool? All right, so I'll need each and every one of you in this room to help me make sure that the folks who are going to come up on stage are going to do that. So anyone who comes up on stage will have to tell us what digital superhero they are and what superpower they have. Like I said, clear example is me. I am digital communications, and my superpower basically is letting the rest of the world know about what is happening in the digital ecosystem in Ghana. Are we cool? Are we cool? Okay, so who's ready to begin? Who's ready to begin today's activities? So let's start this off. What's the hashtag for today? What's the hashtag for today? All right. Now, I know most of you are probably sitting here wondering what is TimXAccra or what is Timbuktu. I have a unique idea, not the very best, but I'm going to invite onto the stage two people who are going to give us a better idea of what Timbuktu means and what TimXAccra and everything else is all about. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome onto the stage two very spectacular women. One of them happens to be the Chief Innovations Officer of UNDP Africa, and the other one happens to be the specialist or the ecosystem specialist for Timbuktu. They're going to give us a presentation on what Timbuktu actually is all about and break it down for all of us to appreciate and understand. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome onto the stage Dr. Eleni Gabri-Madin and Astria Fataki. Please put your hands together for them. Okay, they'll be joining us in a bit. I can see some of us are still taking our seats, so we're going to give them a couple of minutes to do that. And a big warm welcome to all our guests who are joining us now. Thank you all so much for coming. Brilliant. Now, before we open up the Pandora's box and find out what exactly Timbuktu is all about, like I said, I'm going to invite two ladies up here to join us to give us a certain sense of what Timbuktu is all about. I would like to acknowledge a couple of people who are joining us today. If you hear a name, please give us a wave. We want to acknowledge you. We have Amma Poma Boateng, who's the Deputy Minister at the Ministry of Communications and Digitalization. Is Amma here? Amma, give us a wave. Okay, I can't see Amma in the room. I'm sure she'll be joining us soon. Oheneba Dokua Isiama Ejay, who's the Deputy Minister, Ministry of Trade and Industry. Okay. Kojoba Ajiman, who's the CEO of the Ghana Digital Centers Limited. Unfortunately, we don't have him here. Charles Abani, who is the UN resident coordinator in Ghana. All right? Well, let's just crack it on. So, please help me welcome onto the stage Dr. Eleni Gabri-Madini, who is the Chief Innovation Officer at the UNDP Africa, and Ashraf Fataki, who is the Ecosystem Specialist for Timbuktu, to give us a presentation on what exactly Timbuktu is all about. Hashtag TimXAccra. That's our official hashtag for today, TimXAccra. For those of you who enjoy your Twitter and everything else, that is our official hashtag for today, TimXAccra. Whether you're tweeting or you're Facebooking or anything in between, please make sure that you use that particular hashtag. And so, like I said, you can see the two names on your screens over there. They're going to walk us through basically what Timbuktoo is all about and why this incredible digital train is moving all across Africa and basically getting everybody talking. We have come to a situation or in a place where it's very difficult for startups to be able to get access to certain levels of funding, for them to sometimes even make mistakes and just move on from there. And these are conversations that we've had for so many years. And for me, and the reason why today is so historic is because we're going to see a complete shift from that level of mindset to a completely new one. And I'm really, really excited about what we're going to be seeing today. But then before we have our speakers walk up on stage, I'd just like to acknowledge Dr. Eugene Owusu, who is the Presidential Advisor, SDG Advisory Unit at the Office of the President. If he's here, please give us a wave. Thank you so much, sir, for coming. A round of applause. Mr. Yisa Barnabas, who is the Country Representative, UNFPA Ghana. If you're here, please give us a wave, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for coming. And I will be getting into acknowledgements a little later. But please, ladies and gentlemen, with a round of applause, help me welcome Eleni Gabriel Madine and Astria Fataki as they walk us through what it means when we say Timbuktoo. A round of applause for them, please.
Hello, hello. Are you on? Hi. Welcome, everybody. This is so exciting. Astria, we are here in and we are here to present Timbuktoo, and I am so delighted. I am Eleni Gabramadhin, Chief Innovation Officer, and with me is
Astria Fataki, Ecosystem Specialist.
Cool. And this is our I don't know how many time in Accra, but certainly the very first time that we get to present Timbuktoo to the ecosystem, to the community, to our assembled startups, investors, venture capitalists, and of course also our partners in the development community, and as importantly, our members in the government. So we are so happy to be here, and I think we're going to kick off with Astria telling us a little bit about the context of why we're doing this.
Thank you very much, Eleni. Hello, Accra.
Akwaba.
Thank you so much for having us. As part of this Timbuktoo initiative, we have been visiting several countries. And I have to tell you, it is actually the second time that you are coming to Accra, and it's the only country that we visit, at least I visited twice as the Timbuktoo initiative, because there is a real vibe here, and we are very excited about what can be done here. So we are here tonight to tell you a story about Africa's heroes. So Africa's heroes are young people that, despite all the odds, are trying to make a difference on the continent. And they are trying to make this difference through entrepreneurship. And they are trying to seize what we are calling the Africa's moment. What is the Africa's moment? Of course, the pandemic has been a crisis for everyone, but it has also brought real opportunities. I think we all heard this that says that in Chinese, crisis means both problematic, but also an opportunity. And I think in Africa, that's what we witnessed after the pandemic, because there has been a real momentum around entrepreneurship, and we can say that Africa's startup revolution has started, Over the past couple of years, we've seen an increase of 253% in terms of capital venture invested on the continent. I don't know if you're aware of this, but this is huge. This is even faster than everything else that we see elsewhere around the world. So it's like, the entire world is kind of awakening to the Africa's potential in terms of entrepreneurship. There are many examples of startups that are now unicorns. So this is a term that I think can be appropriated, that we can appropriate ourselves as African, but let's use unicorn for now. And you have two examples here. I guess I will insist on Cheaper, which is a startup that has actually been created by a Ghanaian and a Cameroonian, and that is now valued more than $2 billion. So that's very much impressive, knowing that they started only in 2018. So that's an example that shows the power that entrepreneurship can have in terms of change and impact. But that being said,
There's always a but.
there's always a but, right? It's never that simple. That being said, there are still some challenges that need to be faced. First of all, the African startup value represents only 0.2% of the global startup value. 0.2%. So that's nothing compared to the actual potential of the continent and the place that the continent and its youth actually plays in the world. You know, by 2050 will be how much? 1.50%.
50% of the global labor force will be African by 2050.
And yet 1.2% of the global startup value. And this value, though is growing mostly thanks to foreign capital. And of course, we love capital no matter where it comes from, right? Mm-hmm. But in order to build a truly solid knowledge economy, we need to mobilize local domestic capital. You know, it's just a must. So we really need to increase the global capital, but reduce the percentage of foreign capital. And of this capital, 87% of it is focused, if I can say so. I was about to say captured, but that's maybe not the right word. In only 4 countries out of the 54 on the continent. Those countries are being Nigeria, South Africa, Egypt, and
Kenya.
Kenya, of course, Kenya. And so this is, of course, once again, a positive indicator. But if we want the African development to be inclusive, we also need to find a way to diversify opportunities throughout, as evenly as possible throughout the continent.
Don't forget that the Ghanaians will tell you that the 5th one emerging is right here. All right.
So, and hopefully we will contribute to that. And so, and the last figure I think that we would like to share with you tonight is this $90 billion funding gap. So according to a recent study of from TBI, the Tony Blair Institute, there is a $90 billion funding gap in order to reach the full innovative and entrepreneurial potential in Africa. So that's huge, and we are trying to contribute to that, of course, but that's a number to keep in mind. And so in order to face those challenges, among others, but to face those challenges, we are on a mission to execute a vision of Dr. Eleni Gabre-Madhin that has been selected as one of the influencers, UNDP influencers for development, and who proposed this vision of a new model for entrepreneurship in Africa. And I say new, but
promise
really...
I didn't tell her to say all these things. I
She didn't. For sure. I say new, but it's, I would say an enhanced model that really capitalizes on what is already existing to go further, to go faster in this Africa startup revolution. And so I will let you the floor
Thank
to
you, ma'am.
present this amazing
Thank you
and
so
bold
much.
initiative.
Clap for Astria. Thank you so much. And by the way, this is our fourth Timex. So this is our flagship brand, how we introduce Timex to the Timbuktu to the community through our TEDx-like event. And I have to say, this is so gorgeous that I just want to say thank you and a big shout out to the group that put all this together before I continue. Thank you. Might be the best. Do you think this is the best?
It's the best so far.
Looks awesome. All right, so what is Timbuktu? Where did my slides go? Oh, guys, I was just saying how great you guys were. Okay. So we have identified, because there's so much we can do to solve all of this, and you saw the issues, but I think that, we've tried to distill it to 3 priorities, if you will. The first is the obvious one, increasing the amount of early stage risk capital and the share or the quality, the type of early stage risk capital, which will stay on the continent, the domestic sources. So that's our first priority in this initiative. The second is something that I think those of you who are ecosystem builders in the community here, this will resonate with you, is just how disparate and in sometimes even completely disjointed our ecosystem is working. So imagine an ecosystem that is not relying on the power and force of its universities, the research and development and the knowledge that's being generated on campuses. How can we not take that along with us as we think about commercializing, knowledge or innovation? The other part is, where is corporate R&D? We see it sort of sometimes, but not really, and we don't have a concrete way or a concerted way to bring it in. And then you have ecosystem builders, the incubators. Astria runs Energy Generation, which is a super famous and well-known energy hub, actually a West African. You're operating here as well as Togo. And I had an incubator, or have an incubator in Ethiopia, and what we've seen all the time is how the incubators, the accelerators, we're all sort of chasing the same pot of, donor money and not necessarily linked to the outcomes of the companies that we're incubating. So we've got to solve that. We've got to do better in our ecosystem. The third piece, and that's near and dear to our hearts, especially here in Accra, is to think about the One Africa market, to build companies from the get-go that we've baked in a multi-country, pan-African focus, so that we're actually achieving the tremendous and beautiful promise of this One Africa market that, when you hear AFCFTA and you don't even know how to pronounce that acronym, it's all very, very far away. How do we make it concrete and real so that we're building One Africa market plus, beyond, global startups? So the how, and I guess here's the From Here to Africa's Future, the brand that we're introducing on the African startup scene. And I do want to take an exception to what Astria said, that this is my vision or my idea. I think ideas, spring on their own. And this is an idea whose time has come. And I think a lot of people have been thinking how to do things better. So it's really just about being there to kind of help it along and get it to where we need to get it. So what we're trying to do over 10 years is to mobilize and invest $1 billion into what we will show you as the initiative itself, the meat and bones of it. What's going on? Folks? Okay, sorry. And the idea is to, over this 10-year period, to generate 1,000 startups scaling. So what does that mean? Are they decacorns, unicorns, cheetahs? We can find whatever the name is, but startups that go beyond this small thing and really start to show traction and impact livelihoods, the planet, all the things that we want to see in terms of impact. And most importantly, generating value. So what we're really aiming for, and I think this is ambitious but doable, is a 10x value creation, value retention on the continent, so that we're not having that giant sucking back to Delaware or wherever the companies are domiciled, but really keeping and growing our ecosystem as we go. Because no region of the world has become a knowledge economy, whether it's Israel, the $9 trillion contributed by 15 former startups that are now tech companies in the US. I mean, these are mind-boggling numbers, and we're not going to get there if our value is not staying. So we have to get this right. So when we talk about risk capital, where we are interested in is coming in at that post-pitch competition $5,000 grant from donor X or Y, and Series A, 2 million, 5 million and above, where everybody's fighting for a company to be in to be on the round. The valley of death, the 50,000 to 500,000. So that's pre-seed, seed, and pre-Series A, for those of you who speak that language. Post-prototype, pre-go-to-market, post-go-to-market, pre-scale-up. So that's roughly where we think we should be, and we're still working on design and structure, so it's work in progress. Then the big what is how we're going to do this, and what we're designing and co-creating, and that's why we're having this event, so that all of you, and you'll be hearing from some of the leaders in the Ghanaian tech startup ecosystem, because we want to bring everyone's voice into this and to really shape it together. So what we're planning to do is to implement a network of innovation hubs. And so our Timbuktoo hubs are in places where the ecosystem is already thriving and growing, and where we can leverage and do even better. So yes, Accra, Rara, is one of our hubs that we're looking, and that's why we're here, as well as Dakar and Lagos in West Africa. We have Casablanca and Cairo, Nairobi, Kigali, and Cape Town. So this is, still a little bit in progress, and we will wrap up our assessment and our final selection by September, but we are more or less set on this path. So in each of these, and maybe I should just add that alongside this, because sometimes people are saying, or countries that are not in these already maturing ecosystems tend to say, well, what about us? And so what we've also thought about is how can we go to a really important place, which is the universities, where young people full of ideas are, ready to do something, and have, often the lack of the prototyping facility, the maker space, the Fab Lab type of facility, or a design thinking sort of program that they can plug into. So that's what we're doing as a sort of corollary to our Timbuktoo hubs in these 8 places. We are in 10 countries, which are low-income countries. We are putting into place, and we've already, as UNDP, invested in mobilized funds to already get this started in 10 countries that you see in yellow. I won't go down the list, but the idea is that that's part of the pipeline creation to really start to see and encourage, best possible, best-in-class innovations that can plug into our pipeline. So, that said, what's a hub? What's in a hub? It's a little bit of an overused word, sort of like ecosystem as well. So, our hubs have a dual structure, two sides, if you will. One is a startup builder, and I'll talk about what that is, and the second is a venture fund. And the idea is that by bringing these two sides together, we are integrating our ecosystem. It's not a, never thought about idea, but it's something that we haven't seen working terribly well in most of the continent. So the idea is to, and this is something like a Y Combinator model, if those of you know that particular institution, Y Combinator, 500 startups. So the idea of a sidecar fund going with the startup builder and the startup builder really integrating to all the pieces of the ecosystem, the corporates, the universities, knowledge centers, talent pools, etc. And of course, programs. So some of the important characteristics of the hub is that they would be absolutely privately run. This is a private-facing initiative. This is not UNDP business as usual, and that's why we're here, right, Astria? Because we are not your typical UNDP people. You have come both from the ecosystem to really think about how to implement this in a way that's private-facing, private-driven. So these hubs would be run by consortia of ecosystem builders and fund managers that bid to run a hub contracted for 5 years, renewable for more. Second thing is, and this is super, super important, is that they are Pan-African. So a hub in Accra is not for Ghanaian startups only. It is a Pan-African hub located in Accra, and similarly as would each of the other hubs be. So in order to make it work as a distributed and optimized network of innovation hubs, we've designed the idea that each one would start with a single vertical focus, sort of like an investment thesis, if you will. So, so each one would therefore not cannibalize and all try to have the partnerships with the same, corporate partners or same, funds, etc. And also, get diffused and therefore not be generating excellence, especially on the startup builder side. So the verticals that we've identified and would be mapping to the 8 hubs are health tech, agri-tech, creatives, tourism tech, fintech, trade tech / logistics, green tech / energy, and smart cities / mobility. So we're doing the mapping now, and I think it's fair to say that, and we want to hear from you guys, especially the speakers that come right after this, whether agri-tech would be the one we would map to Accra. We're kind of leaning in that direction, and we want to hear from you, your thoughts about that. And we've talked to people in government, people in the ecosystem, and it's really something that we want to make sure that we're getting right. So that said, the structure of how all this would be designed would be to have a catalytic fund made up of UNDP itself, but also partners, development organizations, foundations, ultra-high net worths, international financial institutions, etc., and also host governments. So each of the places where we're putting in a hub, we're actually asking the host countries to also be part of the parent fund, because it's that important. If we're going to get this right, it's strategic. And we've met with nothing but, absolute enthusiasm and commitment to do that. So pretty excited that this is a different model than the usual development model. So what does the parent fund do? It finances 100% the venture or startup builder, which is, as I already said, the link to all the pieces in the ecosystem. And it puts an injection, a minority injection of 40% into the venture fund, which is run on a purely commercial basis. So while the parent fund is a not-for-profit, but for a catalytic sort of objective, the venture fund is absolutely operating on a commercial basis, on a purely private commercial basis. So in the venture fund, we would expect to see a majority, 60%, maybe more, of private co-investors made up of domestic as well as international capital. So if you think about why it's important to be a hub, it's to become a Pan-African center of innovation excellence. One of our speakers that's coming a little bit later in the evening is someone who's been very close to MEST, and MEST has been exactly this Pan-African focus, and I want to hear about that, Ashwin, when you come on later. We also have someone that's been investing in the Pan-African space based here in Ghana, Chanzo Capital, Eric. So the idea of doing Pan-African is not necessarily new, but it's hard, and that's why bringing the best of our thinking and all of our muscle, including the muscle of our organization UNDP that is in every country, is something that we think can maybe be the magic ingredient here. So being a Pan-African hub in this time and space is to become a launchpad for global startups. That's the first. IP and tax benefits, talent and knowledge, spillovers, brand recognition. A globally recognized African agri-tech innovation hub, Accra. That itself is a leverageable brand. Others start to come seeking that opportunity. So building excellence, partnering with global, major companies in that space. And I can say many things, but I think you get the picture. So timeline, and Astria, should I give this back to you? Do you want to talk to timeline? Or should I?
Of course.
Huh? Go ahead. I think that'll wrap us up.
The vision is bold, the vision is ambitious, but at the same time, we feel that, as Eleni said, that the time is now. And so we are really working hard to make things happen as soon as possible. So basically, at the end of this year, we should have the headquarters of this initiative set up. So we already made an announcement a couple of months ago in Kigali, where the headquarters will be hosted. And in the meantime, the unipods that Eleni presented earlier will be launched. So we are currently in the phase of procurement. So it was also a very ambitious program, because we are talking about 10 countries who are now setting up state-of-the-art maker spaces and collaboration spaces. So those will be launched by the end of the year. And the idea is that those unipods will also be feeding the hubs. And so by Q2 2023, so next year, the parent fund should be set up too. So same here, we have like the feasibility studies that are very much advanced, and there are just a couple of decisions to be made in order to finalize it. But by beginning of next year, the parent fund should be set up.
Oh, and actually, may I just interrupt you? The parent fund, and this is a historic point, is going to be domiciled in Africa. Not in Luxembourg, not in somewhere else, but right here, because we have to keep our value, as I said earlier. Sorry.
This is one of the little decisions that need to be made, because that's something very special to be made at this scale, to have this size of a fund based in Africa. So that's very exciting. And then by Q3 2023, we are looking at setting up 4 hubs. So the first half of, if I can say so, the first batch of 4 hubs, and then 1 year later, setting up the 4 other hubs. So within 2 years, we should have the funds and the hubs operational in all 8 countries, but will be present in 18 countries if we count the unipods.
Yes. And I think that's our last slide, so thank you very much. And we now hand back to Philip. Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
We'll come back for discussion.
And that's a
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
But before we get into our next speaker, there's something I want all of us to do. So how many of you have this sheet with you? All right, I want us to open it. So our first exercise today is, remember, what's the hashtag for today? I can't hear you. What's the hashtag for today?
TimXAccra.
I like that. Our second exercise is to understand what the vision is. And you can see it on this page. You can see there 10 years, $1 billion invested, 1,000 startups scaled, 100 million livelihoods impacted, and $10 billion value creation. I want us to repeat it together so that it sinks and we understand the gravity of what we are doing today. This is big. If you don't understand, that's why earlier I was saying this is How many startups scaled?
10,000.
How many livelihoods impacted?
100 million.
And then how much value will be created?
10 billion.
All right, let's do it one more time. Let's go to the vision one more time. Are you ready? How many years? How much invested? How many startups scaled? How many livelihoods will be impacted?
100.
And how much value will be created at the end of all this?
10 million.
It's always a vibe. It's always a vibe. I like that. Okay, so the next gentleman who's going to walk up on this stage, very interesting backstory as to how I met him. And earlier I was telling the team that put all of this together that this feels like a homecoming, because most of the speakers that we're going to have today are people I've had the privilege of having conversations with on my radio show from time to time. And it's nice to see the changes that their businesses have gone through, all the pivoting and everything that has gone on. And it's just nice to have all of them come together for us to have these conversations. And I'm really, really psyched up about it. The next man we're going to hear from is a gentleman called Wolali Senior, and he's with Farmerline. Now, if you don't know Farmerline, please pick up your phone and Google Farmerline now, because you're probably missing out on a very important conversation. So, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Wolali Senior. Now, like we said earlier, very simple exercise. Wolali and all our other speakers, the two of you didn't, but Wolali and our other speakers are going to tell us what digital superhero they are and what solution they basically are bringing. So Wolali is going to start us off. He's going to tell us what digital superhero he is. If he can coin a name, I would love that. And then secondly, he's going to tell us what solution he's bringing for the rest of the world. Wolali, please join us upstage. Thank you so much.
So I do this song to teach you the basic step. As I make you know the fear, run to the dance floor. Just do as I do, and we go have a lot of fun.
Hi.
So jump to the center.
Hello, can you hear me? Thank you so much, Philip. So the digital superhero that I am, I would say I'm a agri-tech ambassador. And the solution I'm seeking to bring is to create broker partnership that creates wealth and impact. That's what I bring to the table, and basically that's what I also do at Farmerline. I joined Farmerline about getting to 10 years now, so the very beginning. This company was formed by two young entrepreneurs, met in KNUST, both having a great background and having very strong passion to solve problems that they see facing smallholder farmers who feed 70% of the world. And the beauty of it was that they got the opportunity to get some training from university using mobile and technologies, and they believe that that is a great facilitator to create change. Fast forward, they took part in a hackathon, which they came up with a very low-tech idea using simple SMS, mobile-based solution to bridge the knowledge gap to help farmers get access to information that they need to grow and feed the world. Unfortunately, the idea didn't kick up because they didn't talk to the people who were going to use the solution. It took a year of iteration, and in 2013, Farmerline was baked. And our mission as a company is basically to create lasting profit for farmers. And this really is defined by every single staff that is working at Farmerline. And basically what we seek to do is support smallholder farmers to get the needed resources to feed the world. Who are we? Currently, Farmerline is a fast-growing ag-tech company. A couple of months ago, we raised our pre-Series A funding of $40 million with funding from FMO, ARIF, and OCO Credit. Now, what we are seeking to do is build a marketplace that combines digital tools that involves logistics, field agents, farm resources, agribusiness partnerships to support African farmers. Since 10 years ago, when we just started with just offering information, the business has grown beyond what we started with, realizing the need for farmers to get not only access to information, but also the resources they need, leveraging innovative financing, logistics, because that is a big challenge in our part of the world. We are a tech company, and so our flagship platform, which is called Merge Data, this tool has been used to support over 1 million farmers so far. We digitized over 1 million farmers, and we've worked with close to 130 corporate and development organizations. Just to give you a brief overview of the spread, so we have close to 33 countries that are using our technology basically to support farmers in their supply chain. And this is not coming as a result of just we doing a little bit, leveraging partnership, because we know that if we want to, there's a African proverb which says if you want to go fast, you go alone, but if you want to go far, you go together. And that's what Farmerline is seeking to do, bring in partnerships for us to scale and support our smallholder farmers that are feeding the world and yet are disadvantaged. One key thing that I would like to share with you before I take my seat is an initiative that we just launched 2 weeks ago. And this is a big issue that needs to be looked at, especially in Ghana, if we want to take our food security into our own hands. And the reason is that pre-COVID pandemic, fertilizer, and then also being exacerbated with the Russia-Ukraine war, fertilizer prices have doubled. And it is very difficult for smallholder farmers in the country to get access to affordable fertilizer. There aren't tailored financial services, and we already have challenges with declining agricultural productivity. And this is because of climate change, among others. And so what Farmerline has set up to do is to raise 1 million Ghana cedi minimum to support farmers to discount what already government is doing through its subsidy program, but we're trying to discount fertilizer or inputs that farmers will buy through our partner shops to get access to the inputs they need so that they can feed us so we don't go hungry. So I'm going to encourage everybody to look at this short code. You can visit Farmerline or dial this short code to contribute. No amount is too small. I thank you for your time.
To the basic
Would have been just perfect. Thank you so much, Walali, for that. That was really inspiring. Like I said, if you want to know more about Farmerline, all you need to do is just hit up Google, and you would find all the information you need. The next one, who's going to walk up on stage and join us, I remember my very first interview with him, and it was interesting, because whenever he's on my show and he's talking, there's this fire in his belly, like he wants to go and get everything all at the same time. And it's always a pleasure to have him, be in a space with him, listen to him, his vision, his drive. It's incredible. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome up on stage Nana Prempeh, who is with Grow With Me. And don't forget, we need to know which digital superhero you are, and also what solution you are bringing to the world.
Nana, and my company is Grow For Me, not Grow With Me. So thanks so much for this wonderful opportunity. My superhero powers are to enable every farmer get paid instantly at a warehouse when he's ready to sell. Instantly, when he comes to a warehouse with his commodity. And before I do anything, we do exercise here. I want you all to do an exercise. Those of you here in Ghana, take your phone. I want you to dial that code on the screen right now, because my story will be meaningless if you don't dial it. It's *800 *008 hash. *800 *008 hash. And I want everyone to dial it. *800 *008 hash. And why do I want you to dial it? Because the story of Osman is summarized in that code. So Osman was a young farmer we met in Gushegu. Gushegu is about 12 hours from Accra and a 2-hour drive from Tamale, so a total of 14 hours. And our mission there was quite simple. And to show you what my mission was, I'll just play this video for you to see. So here was I on a motorbike in very, very remote areas. Your GPS might not even work. And on the bike, you can see stacks of things over there, right there. And basically, I have to understand how the whole value chain is from the farmer or from the small-scale farmer all the way to the value chain addition agents or processing company. So going through this entire experience is helping me to embed myself fully in the process. Perfect. So, like I said, it was many years ago, but it was to enable me embed myself right at the heart of the problem we're trying to solve. And what was the problem? You saw the stacks of those things that look like dried bushes. That's soybean piled up, waiting to be threshed, then bagged, then a buyer looked for. And that was the problem we solved. So by solving the problem, we're able to enable farmers to bring their soybean or maize on motorcycles or motor kings, get paid and stack them up this way in the warehouse. And because we've paid them, once we hit 40 metric tons, we can move these commodities from the warehouse 14 hours from Accra to Tema and enable the off-taker or processor to have these commodities. And then you can have the amazing products you have, which you probably are using in your houses now. And that is really what we do. So on the USSD code you dial, you find that you have an opportunity to sponsor a farmer or sponsor a trade. The two are different. Sponsoring a farmer means you are providing him the cost of seed, fertilizer, and plowing. And sponsoring a trade means the farmer has successfully done that by himself. You are enabling his commodities to be paid for at the warehouse and then delivered to off-takers. Now, what is this problem solving? Averagely in Africa, there's about 30% post-harvest loss. In Nigeria, it's 60%. And this was coming from the Minister of Planning and Infrastructure, who I met in Malabo when I represented the private sector at the 32nd FAO. Now, after we move these commodities, they sit in trucks like this and travel for another 14 hours to processing factories, exporters, and so on. So as you can see, we are really at the ground roots about how does it all work. It starts by financing the farmer through our platform, the code you just dialed. Then we pay the farmer at the warehouse for the commodities they have. Then it moves into the warehouse where quality and quantity standards are ensured. And finally, sent to off-takers who pay us back, and then the money goes back into the system. Financiers are paid a portion of the profit, and the cycle continues. Now, why is this important? If banks were solving the problems, we wouldn't have business. Banks spend just 6% of their total transaction volume on agriculture, and that is really a big problem. That's why we exist. So, you can visit our website if you don't want to dial a USSD code, a Grow For Me, and either sponsor a farmer or a trader. You can do that on the USSD. But in the farming communities, what they do is just sell and get paid on the same code. So I'll just finish off with some impacts that we've been able to achieve. First of all, we are now creating jobs for many young people in villages. So a young lady can now get up, just pick her phone, and bring a bag of maize or soybean and get paid instantly with a commission. And in addition, what we've been able to do is that we are allowing, for the very first time, to have real-time trade data. I don't mean data collected and published on the website. I mean transactional data. So when we say the bag of maize is 165, it means it's 165 Ghana cedis. Next is warehouse officers. So there are a lot of warehouses in the country, not just in Ghana, but what I'm describing to you is actually synonymous to many African countries. And these warehouses just become storage facilities. But because of our technology, the warehouses now become trading points, because every warehouse on our USSD platform has about $60,000 on the platform for that warehouse. So it's really exciting. And finally, but most importantly, off-takers are now happy because they are getting the right commodities on the right time. So talk about the Nestle's and so on from our business. So where are we now? We are about 5 warehouses in the northern part of Ghana. And we do something. As much as we have machines to do cleaning, we allow women to participate in cleaning these commodities so that they make an extra income. than just allowing machines to do all the cleaning. So I just want to end up by saying we've had some interesting traction. We are just a 28-month-old company. And I'll just skip this and talk about the SDG goals that we are really meeting. We couldn't have done this without the key partners and friends that we have. And I'd like to single out a few. Most recently, we just had the opportunity to work with UNDP to extend what we are doing, UNCDF, sorry, to extend what we are doing into Ashanti region and Western region. And what that means is that women and young people for the first time are going to get their commodities, rice, maize, paid for instantly, and they're no longer going to have their harvest go bad. Thank you very much for listening to my story, and I want to see you sponsor a farm or a trade.
For him, he didn't come to play. Did you feel the energy, though? Did you feel that energy? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Always a good man. The next guy to come up on stage, it's always interesting when these memories come. Please, whatever you do after today, please create memories, because that's all we're all going to end up with. Create memories as much as you can. Next up on stage is Nelson Amu, who is with InnoHub. And quick hint, he's in all white, which is very, very special. You guys must be special to have him come in his all white. So please count yourself blessed to be seeing Nelson in his all white. Nelson, please join us up on stage. And don't forget, we need to know the superhero, the digital superhero you are, and the solution you have. I'm not ready.
Good evening, everyone. So, superhero, I would say Captain Planet. If you're old enough to know Captain Planet, we solve problems. We see a problem, we fix it. We don't run from that. So my name is Nelson Madiba Amun, and my company is InnoHub. And I have this in my pocket. I would show that quickly. And if you can't see that close, this is a silver coin. And if I ask you how many sides are there to the coin, what is your answer? Quick. Shout it out. 2 sides. 3 sides. How many tools? And how many say 3s? Amazing. You have so many smart people in the room. So growing up, we also there are 2 sides to every coin. The head and the tail. And we accepted that. Really, it looks true. But there's a third side which is hardly spoken of. In the world of startup finance, you have the demand side and the supply side of capital. And that is typically the narrative that you hear every day. Those who need money and those who have money. So Nana Prempe who needs money. And those of you who can put money into that. But there's a third side, which is where I could say, I'm happy to say Nana Prempe was in our last Agri-Tech Accelerator. And we're happy to see the progress he is making, really making giant steps from that. And what we sought to do was to say, can we build the third layer between the demand side and the supply side very well and strongly? How do we make sure that when the head and the tail are unable to communicate, we build that bridge between the head and the tail? In simple terms, the demand side is saying we cannot find investors to put money in our business. But the supply side says our money is sitting idle. We don't have the right kind of businesses to take our money and give us the kind of return we're looking for. How do we find these demand side players and work with them to the stage where the supply side would actually see an interest in them and put their funding in them and make it work? And that is what enterprise support organizations basically are doing. And we as InnoHub, as an accelerator, we took up that mandate to say we're going to make our businesses investment ready. Starting off with Ghana, of course with an eye on other places, work with these businesses to move them from one point to the other. We don't believe in just working with them, but how do you move the needle or how do you move the dial of this business such that once you support them, they are on the path to growth. We believe in changing mindset, so we said the biggest thing we could do is to exactly imbibe the change mindset DNA in the business and the startups we support. We began in 2016 with our accelerator programs where we invested in 4 of the businesses. Between 2018 and 2020, we invested in another 9 businesses. At a point, the bigger picture is how do we connect these businesses to funds that could invest in them? We noticed a challenge here. The funds had a bigger ticket size than what the businesses could absorb. So do we leave them on their own and say, well, we can't find the funds? As a team, we said we either find a way or we make a way. So we set up on the bigger journey to say beyond accelerating, we want to invest in these businesses. After 2 years of searching for money, we thankfully got about $3 million from the World Bank to sponsor our first climate or green-focused fund to invest in Ghanaian SMEs at the particular value of debt area that Eleni spoke of in her presentation, the $50,000 to the $500,000 tickets. And I'm happy to say that the fund has invested in quite a number of businesses, and in the last few weeks, did an AgTech investment in a company called Wami Agro. And with its impact, the company is able to work with over 15,500 farmers, increase their yield by about 30%. And we're seeing lots of these going on. One of our investments as well is also working with Farmerline. So we have a factory called the Good Roll Africa. And the Good Roll, we did about $20,000 in them. And they are working with farmers across the country who can now, with their bamboo farms, get access to immediate market through this opportunity. We began with that vision to say, how do we connect the head and the tail? In the meantime, we also thought, if we can't find enough of the heads, can we build a stronger bridge to make sure there's a bigger conversation? And that is how the fund came in. And through that, we can now plug them into the bigger ticket size that the funds are looking out for. The journey is still up and running. There's a lot we can do together. And for me, I see Timbuktoo as a big platform to see how many of these activities could we run across Africa and connect the startups who are demanding capital to the investors who need capital, and also put funds directly in these businesses as we do them. We want to see value created and value retained on the African continent. We have said over the years that Africa is rising. Where is Africa rising to? And who is driving the Africa rising narrative? If we could put our money where our mouth is, support the demand side, the supply side, and the third layer, which connects these two, we can drive the narrative much better. Thanks for your time.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Gentlemen, it's time for me to welcome one of my favorite people. The first time I was going to have a conversation with him, I decided to Google all my speakers. And when I Googled his name, I saw Ebola, who plays cricket. And in my mind, I thought maybe, he's retired from playing cricket and he's just going to, he decided to do something else. So we went to the event and then I saw him. I checked out my phone, tried to see where there's no correspondence between what I'm looking at and who is in front of me. And so when you do Google his name, you most likely will find a cricketer, but have you ever played cricket in your life? No, he hasn't. All right, not shocking. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome up on stage my very, very, very good friend, Ashwin Ravicharan, and he is the co-founder at Spark, and he'll be telling us, I'm sure, about Spark in just a bit. Superhero.
Don't have a deck.
Superhero.
Yes, okay, got it. Actually, good evening, everyone. I'm not sure, but I think I'm the last person before you guys can go claim your weekend, so I will be very short as well. My name is Ashwin. Actually, I'm here not to speak about Spark, but actually speak about another incredible organization, which I'm still part of, called MEST. My superhero strengths is that I'm a digital operator, investor, and finally, what I truly believe in is an ecosystem person. What we really set out to do at MEST was that We really wanted to build a platform for Africans where we realized that talent is pretty much universal, but opportunity isn't. So I'm here currently representing an organization set up by an incredible human being. His name is Jorn Lysigan. Jorn Lysigan went across the continent in 2007, chose 5 countries, and then finally decided to come to Ghana and start MEST. So MEST initially started off as a platform, and there's a few people here who have gone through MEST, so I'm pretty sure you guys can go speak to them about the experience there. But MEST started off initially as truly one of its kind of an entrepreneurship school, right? What we truly wanted to do was give people an opportunity to meet people and as well as learn about entrepreneurship in a little bit of an informal way. We call ourselves an entrepreneurship school, but by no means do we offer a degree. We actually offer an investment at the end of your academic program. And actually, we're the only people across the world who are actually doing it today. MEST was started in 2008. We are currently across almost about 5 different countries today on the continent. We have invested in 75 plus businesses. One of the real reasons why I think Eleni and me really started speaking was that we started realizing that a lot of the investments which are going in the continent are either going towards very later stage companies, whereas MEST was actually operating pretty much around the Valley of Death space, just like InnoHub and I think all the other different VCs in the market as well. At MEST, we basically train entrepreneurs in a 1-year curriculum program. Entrepreneurs are accepted across the continent. Our only criteria for actually admission is that you have to be African. We basically bring in people. We've had, in 2020, the class which graduated had 18 different African nationalities represented within the program. They come into the program, they basically do 4 different startup pitches. The first one is focused on business. The second one is focused on getting a product out. The third one is basically like starting to build the venture you actually want to build for the rest of your life or make an exit. And the final pitch is actually where we give you the money. MEST typically invests anywhere between $50,000 to $250,000 at the pre-seed level. We also follow on if we want to. We've supported a few of our entrepreneurs with bigger checks. And what we truly want to do is we want to create a network of incredible founders who actually can work with each other, not only on one venture, but multiple ventures, right? Like Nana, I think sitting in front of me today, has attempted at least 5 to 6 different ventures. He's currently sitting on so many different ventures, and he's doing an incredible thing. Like he's part of an ecosystem today which is thriving. Along the journey, somewhere along the way, what we realized was that we really need to start working with different people also who believe in that vision. So along the way, we started working with InnoHub, we started working with UNICEF, GIZ, MasterCard Foundation, and different people actually giving them impact on the last mile, making sure that we're able to work with entrepreneurs, create innovative solutions, and actually think potentially for scale as well. Truly, I think the Timbuktoo program is, I think, one of its kind. Actually seeing, I think, a United Nations organization invest so much money into venture capital as well as venture building, I think is truly unique. I think any of the sectors which you take in Ghana is now thriving. Yes, agriculture is a big part of the GDP, but if you look at any sector today, I think most of them are gliding. But we're here. We've been in Ghana for 13 years. We call it home. And thank you so much for welcoming me on stage.
Let's go through the basics again. What's the hashtag for today? What's the hashtag for today? Brilliant. Okay, we're going to have one more speaker coming up, and then we're going to get into a conversation. We're going to break a couple of things down, and I'm going to be joined by the panel, and we're going to do that in just a bit. But then coming up next is a gentleman who, interestingly, I've interviewed too many times on my show. He is very direct. He's one of the most principled people you would ever meet in your life, but he's a very, very direct person. And his first name is Eric, and his surname is Osiakwan, and he happens to be connected with Chango Capital. So ladies and gentlemen, please, if you can, and I'm sure you can, please put your hands together for Eric as he joins us up on stage. So it's a pleasure to have him. And Eric, don't forget, we need to know what digital superhero you are and what solution you are bringing to the world. Good to see you, man.
So, my superhero is Kwaku Anansi. How many of you know Kwaku Anansi? And it's Kwaku Anansi. For those who don't know, Kwaku Anansi is a very famous character in Ghanaian folklore. And we have so many stories of Kwaku Anansi, but the interesting thing is that he's known for his trickery. And he can really turn things around in a moment. So I would like to share a little bit of my story. So I'm Eric Osiakwan. I'm a partner at Chanzo Capital. And as Nelson said, there is three sides to the coin. You've heard those on the first side, and then you've heard Nelson, and I'm on the supply side. So Chanzo Capital, we are Africa-focused VC fund. We invest in early-stage tech companies across the continent. We essentially provide early-stage capital to these entrepreneurs, the stage that Eleni talked about in their presentation. But I did not train as an investor. I did not start as an investor. I actually started as an entrepreneur like those that you've heard before. I was involved in building some of the early-stage businesses around connectivity across Africa. So, for example, I was involved in starting Busy Internet in Ghana many years ago. I was involved in ISP Kenya in Kenya, One2Net in Uganda, Malawi Net in Malawi. And through that process, I managed to create a Pan-African network. Then I saw an opportunity that though we had a very sprawling ISP industry, connectivity to the rest of the world was very limited. So I was one of the 3 authors of what they call the open access model that led to building subsea cables across Africa. And I was, during that journey, I got selected as one of the first TED Global Fellows. And that's where I met Eleni, who were in Arusha, Tanzania in 2007. That's one of the first time that TED Global came to Africa. And in that conference, she talked about building the first commodity exchange in Africa. And I talked about, I had a map of Africa, and I showed how Africa we're going to build all the subsea cables to connect Africa to the rest of the world and to connect Africans to themselves. That TED Global Conference was called the Next Chapter. And many of the people that spoke at that event are today some of the next generation leaders that you see across Africa doing incredible things. So when we did that, I then went to Kenya and worked with the Kenyan government to build the first subsea cable called TEAMS, the East African Marine Systems. At that time, East Africa was the only part of the world that had no subsea cable connecting it to the rest of the world. It was only connecting through satellite, which was slow and very expensive. Today, we have 19 subsea cables, and we have so many terrestrial fiber networks. And these networks connected to the cell phone networks that we see, create the digital platform today that we see, where a lot of entrepreneurs that you've heard today, Pharmaline, etc., are innovating and building applications. So we build what you call the network layer, and the next generation of entrepreneurs are building the application layer. They're building the applications that you can use to solve pertinent problems that you have. And so I started thinking about how can I be part of that next generation. And it was clear to me that the challenge was the supply of capital. Luckily for me, I started exiting some of the companies that I helped start. So I started by dipping my toe into the water and investing my own capital, writing very small checks, $5,000, $2,000. I actually started with Pharmaline. I was one of the first backers of Pharmaline. I met Aloysius and Emmanuel in 2013 when they started with a great idea to help farmers. And through that process, they built a company. I learned how to become an investor. And that journey essentially opened my eye to the fact that this innovation entrepreneurship that we're seeing is not only in Ghana, it's not only in Kenya, it's not only in Nigeria, but it's in Sudan, it's in Malawi, it's in Lesotho. Everywhere you go in Africa, there's a new generation of entrepreneurs that are taking their destiny into their own hands. They're using technology to solve critical problems in their society. And I believe that, as Nelson said, they are the entrepreneurs that are building the Africa Rising narrative. Technology is going to become a critical part of Africa's story today. And this is profound because there's a very interesting statistic that I really like to quote. In 1998, there were more landlines in Manhattan than the whole of Africa. A decade later, there were more cell phones in Africa than the whole of the United States. So within a decade, something profound happened. And I think that has become the foundation for all these innovations that we're seeing across the continent. And as we begin to provide capital, and I'm excited that today we're launching Timbuktoo to provide more capital, because for us, the supply of capital is not the more the merrier. Right? The more capital we can provide to these entrepreneurs, they go through various stages, and there's a lot of them. So the more capital that we can bring into the ecosystem and provide to these entrepreneurs, the more we can see success, and the more we can see the next generation of businesses that are started by Africans, owned by Africans, solving Africa's problems. So at Chanzo Capital, that's our vision, that's our mission. And we're excited to be working with the ecosystem. We're excited to be working with other funders. But also we have an event that we do called Angel Fair Africa, where every year, something like this, we bring about 10 to 20 entrepreneurs, and we invite other investors to come along. And we go to a new city on the continent. Every year we go to a new city because we want to also get people to experience Africa. And through that process, we're creating an Africa-wide ecosystem of investors investing in African entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. And so, like I said, it's time for us to dive a little deeper into the conversation. And so I'm going to call up all of my speakers, all of our speakers we've had tonight. But before they do that, I want you guys to pay close attention to the seats they're going to be sitting on, because it's very, very unique. And yes, Ghana is going to be the best you've seen in a bit. So they're going to bring up the seats, and I want you to pay very, very close attention to the seats you're going to be seeing in a couple of seconds. You can see the crates, and we've rebuilt the crates and basically repurposed them to make them seats. An idea if you want to build one, but make sure you see the organizer. She did a pretty good job with it. And so, ladies and gentlemen, please help welcome back on stage all of our speakers so that we can get into a breakdown of Timbuktoo and basically how we can create this connected Africa, connected with the rest of the world. And so we're going to have Dr. Eleni Gabriel-Madin and Astria Fataki, Walali Senyo as well, Nana Prempe, Nelson Amu, and Ashwin joining us. Over to you. Baby girl, you know it's all love. Come over. Just sweet skin like mocha. I see you for poster. Body shape Coca-Cola. Just keep going. I get the model girl talk. Put that body on call. I took the honey on top. I put the money on top. I put the money on. So she falling in love. So she feeling my G. She feeling my Kweku, W. Move like saying it and shaku. What are you?
Everyone is off. So,
Yep. Can you hear me? Yes. Excellent. I hope you're not hearing me on both sides.
Hello? Is this one working?
yeah.
All right. Well, these seats are pretty comfortable, actually, so we're good. We're good. We can hang out here for a little while. Although we're not keeping you from your weekend, as Ash said. So anyways, this has been amazing. You saw a journey, starting with the vision that we have, but really also what's on the ground right here in Ghana. And it's been so interesting for me just sitting here listening to, you know, from Farmer Line to where is Nana Grow For Me, and then our ecosystem builders, hub that's also doing investment, and MEST that's also doing investment. And then somebody that really, for me, was just such an eye-opener. And thank you, Eric, for mentioning the TED, because that really was an incredible TED conference in Arusha, TED Africa. And just hearing his story about just realizing we need to put capital into this thing that we're going to create ourselves as Africans. So it was just incredible to see this journey and the all the sides of the ecosystem, if you will. So I think this has been an amazing panel, and just listening to each speaker. So now the floor is open, and wave your hands. There are ushers that will come, and then we're going to start our conversation. So. Unless you guys want to kick off, but I think we see any hands out there? If not, we can always get Nelson to tell us a good story. All right. Still not seeing anybody. Do you guys see anybody? So, in the meantime, maybe we can actually start with Nelson, because I think, Nelson, you did really talk about sort of that missing middle, and I guess the question for me...
I have a quick question.
Oh, sorry. There is a question. Awesome. Please go ahead and tell us who you are.
Yes, Greg Kusa, Strategic Director at MEST.
Okay.
Just a quick question. With regards to the hub process, I love the model. I think closer. That better? Okay.
Yes.
Love the model. Firmly believe in it. When you guys are going through the mapping process to determine ag tech, fintech, health, is it going to be one hub, one vertical in a given country, or potentially multiple hubs, multiple verticals?
So the quick answer is, at the moment, yes, it is one hub, one vertical. But we also understand that this is a kind of an organic process. So it could evolve. We're already seeing trade tech plus logistics plus commerce, because they kind of hang together. So I'm imagining things will evolve. And the other thing is, I think when we talked about this at dinner, was it yesterday?
Yeah.
That we talked about how, a sector also has its own intersection with others, interaction. So the interactions also matter. So, for example, my agri-tech incubator in Ethiopia, we had a whole bunch of fintech. You could call them fintech, but they were working on agriculture, investment into farming through blockchain, or just a bunch of things, credit scoring for farmers, etc. So is that fintech? Is that agri-tech? So there's going to be a lot of those kind of fuzzy areas as well.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Can't really see. You want to jump in on that?
You were asking a question.
Yes, I was asking you, Nelson, to talk about this missing middle, and whether you saw an appetite from domestic capital for that. Because I think we all want more domestic capital. All power to you, Eric. But how do we get more Erics, I guess, is the point.
Great. So I think to address that, I would also want to add that beyond the missing middle conversation, you also have the missing early in some of the economies we're talking about. And the missing early would be where the early stage, 2K, 5K, even that is still missing. You don't have many Erics, and many of us who are doing angel investing. And we also started our Accra Angels Network, and we noticed that we began talking to high-net-worth individuals who you think could have disposable income, and would say we want to do that. And the first question would be, what is the returns profile like? How much would I make if I put in $10,000 or $5,000? If I do that on a T-bill, government of Ghana T-bill, how much would I make? Maybe 26% per annum. If I put that in a startup, can that be guaranteed? So you see, you don't even have many people writing the very early stage checks. And that also translates to the fact that the businesses are not able to now get a chance to prove their traction and get to that missing middle challenge that we're talking about. So there is really a lot of work, and I was talking to Ashwin, who is also doing angel investing, writing 10K, right, tickets, and a few other people I know, okay, $10,000 I could do. That is gradually picking up. But we need a lot more traction in the space. We need a lot more creative mechanisms to make sure there are opportunities for the very early stage startups to get their first check and get to the next of a 25K, a 50K, and then they can start looking at the 200K that other funds could come in to do. So there is really a lot of work to do, and we cannot really pretend all is well.
Interesting. Anybody want to add to that, or should we go back to the floor? Please, Eric.
If I could just add a little bit to what Nelson said. So every company goes to various stages, and at every stage there's a capital requirement. So normally it's angel, then pre-seed, seed, then Series A, Series B, Series C, then goes out, right? And every stage sort of defines where the company is. At an angel stage, it's pretty early, and so generally we say that the people that give you that kind of money are friends and fools. In other words, friends are people who know you. Either you were in school together, you were buddies, you're in the neighborhood, that kind of stuff. So, and they say they're fools because sometimes you don't know the person, but you believe in what they're trying to do. And so there's a probability that, you can lose the capital. So generally that type of capital is capital that you can lose, so don't use your kids' school fees for angel investing. But also that at that early stage, if the company succeeds, think about it, right? If the company became $1 billion company, it means that you invested when it was an idea. And so you may have put $5,000 or $10,000, but the value of that could be $10 million. Right? So it's a high loss, it's very high risk, but high return. So the risk profile, corresponds to the return that you get at that stage. So generally, the slogan is that it's a spray and pray. You spray in a couple of companies, you put very little money in a couple of them. Generally, 8 to 9 of them fail, then one succeeds, and that one makes up for the 9 that failed, or the 8, or the number that failed. Right? So if you have a little bit of money, you kind of, so that generally the way you look at a couple of companies and you put a little bit in it, and if one of them succeeds, then it makes up for them.
Well, I do have a follow-up on that, but I don't want us to exclude the rest of the room. So if anybody has a hand up, please do stand up and the mic will come to you. And just let us hear you, because I can't really see you. Do you see anybody? No? Okay. So I guess my follow-up is still on this theme of how do we get domestic capital early and missing. I want to talk about pension funds. We have a lot of money sitting in pension funds. How do we unlock that?
There's already a firm which did it. There's already a firm which did it right now.
There's a firm that did it? Okay, let's hear about
so
that.
I think Injaro just recently, probably is, putting the path for us on that one. They've been able to go and I think Jerry and his team have spent a lot of time doing it. And I think they've managed to put, a 15 million Ghana city fund, or a little bit bigger than that. But it is definitely, it's happening here. And but I think putting the right pressure and figuring out how they're going to actually give it to you and what the risk profile is. Because I think this pension fund is purely ag tech. It's purely agricultural SMEs.
So the Injaro fund is ag tech, or the pension fund money
Injaro
coming
is
into
investing in only the mandate is that has to be ag companies.
Okay, interesting.
But again, there is a lot of conversation around how to get this idle capital from pension funds. So Impact Investing Ghana, which I think you met Amma yesterday, as we speak now, we've had a lot of workshops with all these capital holders to see how do we begin to really move some of the assets we're sitting on into funds who could help you diversify your portfolio. So there is early stage conversation, and we're keeping fingers crossed that some of them will become followers of what we've seen happening currently. But yeah.
Awesome. Now I wanted to actually come to our 2 startups because you both are in agri-tech. I don't know if that was that a coincidence, or did we ask our country team to help us find only agri-tech? I don't think so. I think they just found the best startups and happened to be 2 great agri-tech companies. But I guess the question for you is, how do you see yourself if there was an Accra Timbuktu hub focused on agri-tech? What do you think that means for you? And is it real enough for you, or does this just all sound like UN speak that, it doesn't seem very believable? I just want to put the spotlight on you.
Hi. So I think the story of Farmerline basically came into being because of, we benefiting from something like that. And the journey hasn't been that smooth, as, lots of the speakers have said. So I see this as prepping the upcoming generation opportunity for them to take their own destiny. If we really want to build Africa for Africans, then it has to start with we investing in Africans. And that it requires, the three sides basically. And I think this is basically, spearheading towards that direction. And Farmer Line becomes sort of an example of we going through that same process, benefiting from several, support that has pushed us to where we are, believing in a great idea, and we share determination, passion. We're making, scaling what we're doing. So I think that is in the right step. And I'm excited to see, the UNDP take on that, because in the past it's been, probably you have foundations that's coming in, bits and pieces. But here it is well structured across the entire continent. So we're taking really our destiny into our own hands. So
awesome.
That's a great initiative.
And congratulations on your 14 million raise, by the way. That's pretty massively impressive. Please, and you call that pre-Series A?
Yes, please.
Okay, so, wow.
Well, I would answer the question in two ways. The question is, how do we see our company benefiting from Timbuktu? So for those who know me, Grow For Me is my second company. My first company was a fintech designed to raise funds for churches and later on for businesses.
Oh, wow.
And what I did in there was possible because I went through MEST, and from MEST I met Nelson and other people who helped us, grow as individuals and build our companies. And I'm happy that now we have an independent CEO running that business, and I can start a new one. And to your question, that's what's going to create. It's going to create multiple people like me who have passion, drive, and want to take their destiny into their own hands. And I must say, Eric also gave us a platform to pitch our business back then. So really, seeing Timbuktu set up is very critical. But what I think is amazing is that having the Pan-African strategy from day one is going to be a game changer, because all the business I've built, I've tried to scale or have presence in other markets because of the monolithic nature of the verticals I pay attention to. They are quite similar. So having a pedestal on which you can transition from Ghana, Nigeria to Kenya, and maybe wherever, Lome, wherever, it's key. It makes work very easy for you as an entrepreneur, because you can hop from one, and I like the fact you call it launch ports, right? One launch port to another launch port, so it makes work easy. So what I see, the benefit I see is that the next generation of entrepreneurs are going to move faster, are going to have much more access and much more connectivity than what we had maybe 7 years ago. And that is key, because if you look at the numbers, the continent is growing exponentially, and we need to own our own solutions. We need to home breed them, and we need to scale them locally so that we can have the Africa we want. So to your question, I think it's a right thing, and it's at the right time, and it's going to build on what has already been done.
So you've been around for 28 months, I think you said?
Yes.
How many countries are you?
So we are legally registered in Ghana, Nigeria, and Kenya. So we're in three countries registered, operational in Ghana. We're looking to operationalize Nigeria somewhere next year.
Awesome. How about you, Farmer Line?
Yeah, so we are legally registered in Ghana. We recently opened an office also in Ivory Coast.
So how hard was it? So both of you, congratulations. You're already Pan-African, and that's exactly what we want to see more of. So how hard was it to raise money being registered in Ghana?
Yeah, it is, quite a hard work. You have to earn a seat at the table for the start, like for you to even to be given that, platform. Not to talk of, this is beyond the idea you have. Just the fact that you are African, so many, stereotype, basically. And so you have to overcome that, prove yourself beyond all doubt. And then your idea has to be scrutinized. And this is being in a context where you're developing solutions that are not, you don't have infrastructure, you don't have the support system to, get it to the metrics they're looking to measure. And those are some of the difficulty we took. It's taken us to raise Even for this investment raise that we had, we thought it was going to be, quite a quick process because of what we've done over the period, but it's been quite a difficult journey. And getting the support, thanks to the likes of Eric and others that we benefited from, giving some guidelines on what you need to do. Our CEO had to basically, learn a lot of things, just to be able to get to answer difficult questions, which hitherto, if we had a lot of this support, makes it right easy for you to, attract those investments compared to what happens in Silicon Valley, where a check is just written just by stroke of a pen. But this, you need to prove beyond all reasonable doubt that the funds you get.
Partly because you're also domiciled here, I think. I don't know. Do you see that as being domiciled in Ghana? Does that increase the scrutiny? And you're an investor who's trying to invest across countries in Africa, so you have the converse sort of perspective. So maybe you can share your thoughts.
I think that because this early stage investing stuff is new, I think there needs to be some regulatory reforms. Some of the legal regimes in most countries are not, there yet. So I think that most countries, there's a new movement to set up, launch startup bills, startup acts, and these startup acts are really trying to go deal with some of this bottleneck that you have on the regulatory and the legal side of things. So it is not easy if you domicile locally. It's not easy for somebody who's domiciled outside to raise capital than when you're domiciled locally. But also, there's two sides to that. One is sort of the kind of investor that is looking at the investment, and also the objective of the investor. So the investors that are, pure return investors, so they're looking for, optimal return, and then the investors who have an impact lens. So for them, they can sacrifice some return in exchange for the impact that you make, So as an entrepreneur, when you go to the market, you have to also sort of do some sizing of the kind of investors, what they look out for, and that could help you sort of navigate. But I think that the reality today is that there's less supply of capital than opportunities out there. I know a lot of people say, we can't find the entrepreneurs, exactly. Because the interesting thing is that the market is the one that really determines who will succeed. Even when you're found, you have an IC, you make a decision, but the reality is that it's the market that will determine whether Farmerline will become, which companies will succeed. So the reality is that if there's a pool of, there's more supply of capital, then more entrepreneurs get a chance to go to the market.
Yes, which is what this is all about, right? Exactly. I still want to hear from our room.
Yeah, that was the
And is there a question? Perfect. All right. And I had a question for you, Ash. So I'm coming to you later.
Hi, my name is Ani Akwa. From Bridge Taylor, and I'm really happy you guys got onto the discussion around where you are incorporated, when you're trying to raise money, because that is really, really a big issue. And I think that the whole conversation is around de-risking investments. So the thought is that, and I think Eric said that, if you are registered outside, the probability of you complying with some level of corporate governance structures is higher than if you are in the local scenario. So talking about the third level players, what value do we see in these ecosystem builders who are concentrating not necessarily on helping entrepreneurs build the product, but rather helping them hone their structures and packaging their ideas to kind of de-risk, what they are doing. I don't know if you get me, but I think that there has to be some value in spending time to de-risk the investments, not necessarily working on just the idea part of it. Thank you.
So do you mean de-risk in the sense of financial de-risking, or do you mean in the sense of
governance, system, structure, everything?
All right, so we'll let those two guys answer. Thoughts?
What is thought? I think Emmanuel is saying the right thing.
Is it a comment?
With like, I think at MEST as well, like we've seen this, is that when you try to raise money, when you're a Ghanaian entity, half the investors abroad don't believe your governance, right? They're like, oh, who is this audit? This person's not certified, not realizing that there is an audit council here and people need to get certified to become auditors as well. No, I think I completely agree with you. But I think probably one of the other things which I think investors don't do, and I think this also comes with the bias that not every investor has been an operator or a founder. Like that's also a big missing gap currently also in Ghana, which is that people haven't made enough money in tech to actually come back and invest it in tech, right? Like if you look at real estate or you look at oil, like why is it that everyone who does real estate for legacy is continuing to do legacy? Because they see money there, right? It's very simple. They know how to do it. They know how to do it really well. But I think today morning there was an article about Microtraction in Nigeria raising $15 million in their new fund. All their LPs are ex-founders, right?
Yes,
so you can see founders from like Andela, you can see founders from Paystack, you can see founders from 54 and Gene. They're all trying to redeploy that capital. Because when founders also invest in that, they also know the governance, right? So for example, now today, if you have, let's say, Nigeria is a hot space for crypto, but like if you have a startup coming out in the blockchain space, the Nigerians or LPs will basically, when they form the IC, they'll be like, we know what the guy is doing or we know what the lady is doing, let's just approve it. Instead of actually getting ICs who don't understand governance, don't understand the play of the local land, and also technically sometimes don't understand how that money is, how the idea is going to give back the, how the business is actually going to give back the money of investment, which then comes to your question around like de-risking not only the idea but also like then understanding their financial forecast is actually like when you de-risk it there, is there actually a return of investment, right? So I think there's a lot of different components, but 200% agree with you.
Do you want to add to that? You're good? Yeah. All right, Nelson. I did have a question, and actually I'm going to ask Astrid as well. Okay, go ahead. All right, I was going to ask you a question.
I just wanted to add indeed to this idea of de-risking the investment and de-risking capital two main ideas. The first one is that I think the entire ecosystem is maturing, and where we used to see a lot of incubation program, acceleration program, now we see more and more of investment readiness program. And I think that's something that is more and more important to actually get the entrepreneurs ready for investment, because that's the conversation I think that Nelson was mentioning earlier, this gap in terms of understanding, and that's also something that is very much in the DNA of the Timbuktu initiative, and that's one of the things that I would say like the most about this model, because the fund and the startup venture builder are talking together, and when the startup are grown within the startup builder, they are grown in regards to the criteria, investment criteria of the fund. So by definition, if they go through the entire processes, they are investment ready and they are kind of de-risked in regards of the investment. The second idea is to the point that we were making earlier regarding the origin of the capital, because the perception of risk is not the same based on where the money comes from. Exactly. So there is, of course, this perspective of a funder, you know, an entrepreneur that invests has the same regard, the same lens in terms of risk, but also when you are a local entrepreneur, when you're a domestic entrepreneur, there are things that you won't even perceive as risk. But when you look at it from the outside, you know, you have all those red lights going on, because you're like, you don't understand what is happening on the ground. So that's why, you know, this really homegrown capital is necessary, because it also reduces the perception of risk and therefore increases the amount and the possibility of investments to startups.
Awesome. Do we have another question? Is that a question over there? Do I see someone? Okay.
It's 3 people.
3, all right. And I think this will be our last 3, because even though the cushions are comfortable, I'm sure you all would like to to the closing.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Gifty Akapule, and I'm the Gender Advisor for Social Enterprise Ghana. And this question goes specifically to venture capital. I want to find out, we are aware that when it comes to women, having access to finance is a challenge as compared to men. And I would like to know what you are doing in that regard to meet SDG Goal 5. Thank you.
Right. Awesome. Let's hold that question. Venture capital for SDG 5, which is gender, I do believe. You passed that test. Okay.
Thank you. My name is Justina. I work with Impact Investing Ghana. I actually wanted to make a comment in relation to the investment readiness. So in my line of work, we connect viable businesses to investors. And what I noticed is that, yes, as much as a lot of the businesses want to get investment ready, some actually are not well positioned financially to pay for the investment readiness process. So maybe as an ecosystem, those that can pay, let them pay. But is there a way that we can provide some sort of financing to actually drive investment readiness? Because there are startups with great ideas, but they don't even know where to start and how to sell their idea. They don't know where to push the idea. So if we have some sort of investment readiness at the very beginning, it helps to drive the process. So I think that is one of the things we need to also look at and then drive that. Thank you.
Thank you, Faustina. One last question. I think I was told there's a third.
Thank you very much. I'm Abdurrahman, and my question goes to my brothers in the agri-tech field. First of all, I'll say you've done a great work. But my question is, in your presentation, one of you said there's a lot of post-harvest in Africa.
Loss.
And when you look at Africa, a lot of those who are into agriculture are the local people in the villages. And I want to find out from you how many of them are aware of this initiative you have in place, because a lot of them don't know about the program you have. So is there any, how do you call it, is there any plans to create a sensitization program for those in this hinterland, because majority of them don't know about it? Thank you very much.
All right. I think that was our last, or is there a last? Somebody said right around there, one last. Okay. The last, after the last.
Awesome. Thank you very much. My name is Godsway, and I'm with Grow For Me. So my question has to, in fact, I love the idea about the third layer to the coin, and I want to talk about that. Sure. So, growing up, I observed that for you to come up with things, for you to put things together, there are ingredients. And that is where I fall in love with the third layer, connecting the tail and the head. So I want to ask that, in as much as we're doing, putting together all the efforts to help young men with great talents to build the Africa we want and own our solutions to ourselves, are we creating a platform that identifies the ingredients? For instance, number one, for a young man with an excellent idea to put it up, you need the human resource, in as much as we are much more focusing on technology. So we have men coming up with platforms that are technology driven. So with human resource, do we have some funds there to support them? For instance, we identify you, we want to support payment of salaries to your staffs for a number of years till you are ready to take up all those costs. Thank you very much.
Awesome. So human resource for the man or woman.
Yeah,
exactly. Okay, so I think we have collected quite a few. Venture capital for SDG 5 women, the investment readiness.
Yeah.
If one
How
of
to
you want to
finance
address that.
investment readiness, yeah.
I think there was a question for me, and how do you access those people that may have never heard about you? So I think we'll get started with that.
Yeah.
So please.
All right. So you're absolutely right that I think the gender parity when it comes to funding is very disproportionate. We are guilty as well in our first portfolio. We noticed that we didn't back a lot of female founders. So what we've been trying to do now is how do we make a collective effort to back women founders. But for us, it's not just backing women founders alone, but what we call infusing gender into the company that we invested in. Because I think, the more diversity you have at the leadership of the company, you get better results. I think there's a lot of literature. There's empirical evidence that backs the fact that infusing gender into the leadership of a business has direct impact on outcomes. Companies perform better, they make better returns. So it's a two-pronged. You want to be able to back more female founders, but also how do you infuse more female leadership into the companies at the top? Because if you do that, then it kind of permeates down. Right? So it needs to be sort of a holistic approach in that sense, and that's what we are hoping to do as we go forward. And we think that this needs to also become part of mainstreaming across the funding landscape, so that we're able to give a lot of women that have agency and have substance, but also means that we need to have more female funders. Right? So in the funding ecosystem, there needs to be female funders, right, that provide the capital. Because there's a limit to what I can do if I'm a male founder and I'm trying to back more female founders. So in the provision of capital itself, we got some work to do there as well.
That's right. Thank you so much, Eric. And maybe Inohab, you can...
Yes, so I'll talk about the funding investment readiness, but just a quick addition to Eric's point. So thirdly, there's a lot of conversation on gender lens investment. So a lot of funds are really beginning to look at investment from the gender side, female founders, female-led, female senior management, and female impact businesses. So it's not that bad right now because there's the interest and the excitement around all of these things to make it work. In terms of financing investment-ready ventures, I'm shy to admit that this question from Justina is from a personal experience we had, where there was a business they were supporting, and they brought them to us to see if we could make the investment ready. And we gave a bill, and they said they cannot pay for the service at all. And then, as much as we would like to do some of these things and support them, you also need to keep the system running. And so, again, Timbuktoo and some of the conversations, we sat in Haifa, Israel, about 4 years ago, and discussing how they were supporting their startups with structure and method. And there you see targeted approach to financing hubs and incubators to provide the support to the entrepreneurs. And there's an authority that then brings in the funding to the startups as they go through that kind of program. So could there be creative mechanisms where you have agents, and I'm glad that Timbuktoo is doing 100% financing for the hubs to be created.
Exactly the idea.
That is one of the key things that would help eliminate the barriers that a startup would face in accessing the kind of service they want. However, you also want to have an element where there's a bit of skin in the game by the startups. So we could fund the support to an extent, but could we do an 80-20 where the startup is paying 20% of the cost of the support? Then they begin to appreciate what it takes to pay for services and not always look for things on a freebie note. But over time, we have done a lot of programs, Nana, you would bear, where we gave the support for free to make the investment ready. Also gave a few more things like high-end laptop for the agri-tech startups who went through our kind of program. So, but again, these programs need to be funded, they need to be sponsored before we can deliver it to the startup. So,
yeah. I also want to add a certain thing because I just finished raising for my startup right now. Investor readiness also is a mindset. right? It's not just a process. Like, I think not many founders want that mindset. They want money, but they don't want to go after
The process,
in that process or in that mindset. I'll be honest, like, it took me 6 months to raise my cash, but we were doing it every single day. There was discipline. And it's been there from the get-go. You need to have that mindset. Like, as much as I agree with everything, like, investment readiness should be funded, there can be, share capital, all that is trash if the founders not willing to understand and be mature that this is something which takes time, it takes diligence, and most importantly, it takes discipline. Because it's not just the person who's getting you investment ready, but it's also you who has to be ready. It requires you to network. And a lot of founders, I've seen this personally, working with so many of them, they expect investment to land on their desk. It doesn't work like that. You need to go out and find it, right? And that's a mindset too. So as much as I think that the process and all those things are great, if they don't have the mindset, I think they've lost 99% of that battle already.
So I think that's a really good point. And I think to Nelson's point about making things free, and then people lose that mindset because they're just sitting there, being spoon-fed. So I think there is something about finding balance. So I think for us, we've been thinking about how do you grind within the program. So it's not an automatic pass-through. You don't meet milestones, you leave the program. That's, this what did we call it? An upper out strategy, that you have to be making progress and grinding to earn your spot in the program, and then to earn the chance to access capital. So I think that we have to build that in, and maybe the other one is your 2080. I don't know. Let's keep talking about that. But since we are running out of time, and actually are out of time, let's hear from you guys about the question about access, and then I want to ask Ash and Astria something, because they both run more so messed with the 18 countries, but actually maybe not more so, because I know energy generation in Togo that you run has many nationalities. So what I'm going to ask you is, while these guys are thinking about their answer, is what happens when you put young Africans together in a hub? Do they cross-fertilize? Do they form new companies together? Do they become subsidiaries of each other? I mean, this is the real magic that we want to see. So I want to hear from your experience. So, Farmer Line and...
So you asked a very important question. How do we let the farmer who has no smartphone and just listens to one radio station in his local language and does not read an SMS get to know our service? And the answer is in the video I showed you. You saw me on a motorbike in that remote area nobody here may want to go to. That's number one. And number two, it's radio. So radio is really one of the most effective ways in such areas. And then finally, really, is using the existing network or connection. So in the agriculture space, one of the most efficient networks is a network between the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, Crops Department, and district offices that works with farmers at very local levels. So we thrive on that network to identify farmers we can fund to grow more, or we can buy from at or specific warehouses located in the most production areas. But the other key thing is that you don't want to make too much noise or create too much adverts, because what happens is you have so much farmers coming that buy my commodities, and you don't have enough capital to buy the volume that is needed, because you're still bringing in more capital. So you face it. You launch and you make noise based on the capacity that you have to buy, and then you grow it gradually. So that's why maybe a lot of farmers in Afram Plains will not hear about us, or in somewhere in maybe Western region will not hear about us. However, it's changing, because now you have development partners like UNCDF coming in saying, hey, we've seen what you've done in the northern part of Ghana, it's great, we want you to bring it to the Western and Ashanti region, so there is capital for you to scale your operations, and that helps us to create an impact and for us also to grow our business. So that's what I think is amazing, and it's changing. And then finally, you have traditional VCs who understand the need for local knowledge coming in through local influencers. So for example, I raised my investment because I went through Founder Institute, and Simon, who was a Ghana manager, could validate that, okay, we know this guy, he's been grinding for the past 7 years, and if he says he's doing business, he's serious, so I can vouch for him. So someone who doesn't know me would invest quite a significant amount of money into my business. Or because I went to investor readiness program with Nelson, when this guy comes, everything is in shape. So there's a lot of parts to it why other farmers may not have heard about what we're doing, but I believe that as we scale our business, a lot of farmers would hear about what we are doing and we will grow with them.
Awesome.
Yeah, I guess in addition to what my colleague has said, is basically leveraging mobile telephony. Now we have, quite a lot of farmers have access to mobile phones, or in their household they would have access to mobile phones. So what we do at Farmer Line, we leverage that a lot. We have a short code 399 that you can dial on any network, and basically it comes to our call center where we can connect you to our partner, agrovets or aggregators who you can then deal with. And we also use that to train the farmers on post-harvest issues. So before the season starts, they get training on business planning, and then during the season, they get training on planting methods, weather forecast, and then post-harvest handling. We also have trainings for agents where they have moisture meters. We're also investing into portable aflatoxin kits for them to test products in the field to make sure that they are meeting quality standards, and then training them where we identify issues of high levels of those aflatoxins, tailor trainings to support those smallholder farmers to make sure that they're doing the right thing. So that's what we're investing.
That's what your 40 million is going for. Yes, I now understand.
Yeah.
So 30 seconds.
Ladies first.
What happens when you put a whole bunch of young Africans in the same hub?
Well, I think there are people who think that Pan-Africanism is dead, or that it was never really achieved. Maybe it's true until a certain extent it's true, but I personally believe that Pan-Africanism is the future of Africa. And when I first founded Energy Generation almost more than 6 years ago now in Togo, I'm myself Congolese. I was born in DRC, so everyone asks me why Togo, because for me Africa is like one place. Of course there are all the differences that we know, but I didn't have this mindset of I'm Congolese, I have to do something in Congo. And I went to Lomé because there were so many good reasons that I want to share here. But at the end of the day, we welcome over those past 6 years, young Africans coming from more than 20 different countries and spending 2 to 2 years together with us on campus in Lomé. And it's the most interesting thing to witness, because when they first meet, they all think that, oh, I'm from this country, I know better, or there's a lot of nationalism, if I can say so, in the process. And at the end, all of them, usually they partner to create at least binational companies together. And that's a very interesting thing to witness. And I think it gives something very concrete to this idea of Pan-Africanism.
Awesome, awesome.
It's like, I don't know, for any of you who eat Chinese food, it's like a hot pot. You get the best flavors out of them all. It's usually, we've seen it in the past, and I think from 2018 we've seen it a lot, is that when all of our entrepreneurs start forming teams, the teams are so diverse, right? And the way they think about a problem is so structured on their context, and the way they're thinking about the solution is that we want to take it home. So we've had, I think, entrepreneurs, teams who've been one Sudanese, one Kenyan, one Ghanaian, and one, I think, Nigerian. We've had teams such as all of them are from Kenya, but they've grown up across different parts of the world or different parts of Africa. So I think it just brings out the best in each one of them.
Awesome.
And I think it brings about that unity, and I think, when everyone talks about Ubuntu and all of these things, I think putting a bunch of Africans together in a room, that's the way you're going to solve all the problems on the continent. And you can't do it as one Ghanaian, one Nigerian. No, if you look at most of the richest billionaires across in Africa, they have multi different country businesses. And only when you learn from these businesses are you able to actually provide even impact to them. So I think that's what I feel.
Awesome. And you know what else is going to start happening is, and this is to Eric's thing that he was talking about, which is bringing everyone together in conferences and having, your 20 or something startups pitching to angel investors. With Timbuktu, we didn't even talk about this just to save time, but at the HQ level, we're going to be having an annual convening because, how many times do we see this sort of, Seed Stars comes and does an event and then they all go off to Geneva and have this big global startup event, or Slush comes and off they go to Helsinki and have a, annual startup event. Why don't we just have our own startup event where the world will come to us? So that's another thing that we're planning to do at Timbuktu, and that's where, the fintechs and the agritechs and whoever are all actually also in their, in a common space. And we're also planning some, I don't want to call it reality TV. I always think of Big Brother when I think of these hubs, where everybody's meeting and then all these things happening. But we are thinking of something that tells the stories, because this is about the narrative, right? So what happens in Accra Hub, what happens in Dakar, and in, so and so. How do we follow those stories? And I think young people love that kind of, reality TV where we actually get to see people growing their companies, grinding, pitching, all of that, and making that real and down to the ground. And, here we were speaking a lot of jargon that maybe some people couldn't even follow, and we have to make it real to every, youth that's interested or that can be part of this. So there's a lot to come. We've had a beautiful conversation. Thank you all. And with that, we're going to hand back to Philip, who will take us to the closing. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Keep it going forward.
In our midst this evening before we take wrapping up comments. First, I'd like to acknowledge in the session today, Charles Abani, who is the UN Resident Coordinator. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. We also have Abigail Lai, who is the Deputy CEO, NEIP, in our midst today. Thank you so much. And Mr. Oliver Boache, advise you, who he's an advisor to the Minister of Environment, Science and Technology and Innovation. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. And now, ladies and gentlemen, to wrap it all up, send us off into the cocktail session, which I'm sure most of you are waiting for. Please help me welcome onto the stage Dr. Angela Busigi, who is a UNDP resident representative for Ghana, for her closing remarks.
Thank you so much, Philip. And just to say, it's Friday night. And I'm so impressed by all of you who've given us your time to be with us today. But I think you'll agree with me, it's been a worthwhile endeavor. So thank you for honoring our invitation. I would especially like to appreciate Dr. Eleni and our colleagues from UNDP Africa for selecting Ghana as part of this very important initiative. And of course, prioritizing the discussions with all of you and coming up with agri-tech as a potential area. And I'm very excited, not only because I'm an agricultural economist by training, but I think that agriculture remains a key driver of Ghana's economy, not just because it contributes to export earnings, but it's also a major input into the manufacturing sector and still employs over 50% of Ghana's population. And we know that despite this, and you've heard the presentation from some of our entrepreneurs and innovators, it's estimated that only 50% of the country's 13.5 million hectares of land is currently under cultivation. So what we're talking about today, agri-tech, is really a tremendous untapped opportunity for young innovators to seize this emerging opportunity and venture into agri-tech. Because let's be honest, agriculture isn't sexy, but when we look at agri-tech, it really is going to be what's going to transform this sector. And we believe that it not only has the power to support Ghana's development, but it's also an important vehicle to leverage the benefits of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. And we know that Ghana is home to the Secretariat, so definitely this is something that we need to celebrate. And you'll agree with me that drawing on Timbuktoo's initiative and the 8 hubs across Africa is something that's a tremendous opportunity for key ecosystem players. Because even if agri-tech is based in Ghana, it means that Ghanaians still have the opportunity to access all of the other hubs and be able to grow their businesses as Pan-African businesses. And we think that this initiative is uniquely designed to do one thing: to mobilize public and private partnerships that will transform the opportunities for Ghana's youth and also across Africa. We would like to see world-class entrepreneurs, innovators, and problem solvers. We've learned a lot from the speakers and the panelists today, and I invite you to take these takeaways and engage in the growth of innovative African startups. I also invite you to partner with UNDP and our partners on the ground. I see a lot of UN colleagues here, and I think that's great. And thank you also for our partners from the Diplomatic Corps who are here, and all the key ecosystem players. I would like to conclude, I know I'm the only one standing between you and drinks, by emphasizing the need to massively scale up the integrated ecosystem support for innovation in Ghana and across Africa. If we want to achieve more, do better, and deliver transformative impacts. Once again, thank you all for giving us your time and for attending this event, and we're looking forward to much more. Stay tuned.
What your superpower was. But yeah, we'll do that at the next session. Before we head on off to drinks and have a good time, I just want us to do one more time the exercise that we did earlier. So let's pick up our papers and let's go through the vision once again together, and then from here we head on for drinks. So what's the vision? How many years? How much is to be invested? How many startups are going to scale? How many livelihoods are going to be impacted? And how much value is going to be created? All right, people, let's have a good one and enjoy the very best of the evening. Enjoy all the drinks possible and have a lovely weekend. Thank you so much.
It's amazing. Good to see you. Good to see you.